So this is the second part on creating our own custom server browser in Unity. If you haven't seen the first one, I suggest you go ahead and do that now by clicking on the screen. So what we can then do is we can go ahead and say room list dot add, and now we simply want to add our room list item GO. So we have now added it to the list, and we will now keep track of it as we go. So I believe that's all we need to do for now. And if we hit play here, of course it's going to say it's not going to do anything because, well, basically, wait, this is not pretty. So what do we have? Okay, so we of course need to set up some of these references here. So we'll take our status text and drag it under the status. We'll take our room list item prefab and drag that under there. And we'll have a room list parent, which is going to be our content. There we go. Oh, I set all of those up in play mode. So room list item prefab, status text, and room list parent. There we go. So now let's hit play, and we shouldn't get any errors, but we aren't getting any servers either because there aren't currently any active. And we could of course go ahead and make a case for this in here. Simply say if, maybe we should say down here that if room list dot count is equal to 0, well then we can set status dot text equal to no rooms at the moment. And now when we hit play, we should see that it goes through all of the steps and it finds all of the matches, but it finds out that there are no rooms available at the moment. And you can see here that we just need to expand this to make room for the text. So if we hit play here again, it says no rooms at the moment. So that's fine. And we can go ahead and hit refresh, and nothing will happen. So that's the next part. That is, we need to load up this UI here. So I'm just going to find our refresh button, and under onClick, we can drag in our join game object up here, go under function, join game, and then find the refresh room list. And now when we hit play, you should see it searches for rooms, and when we hit refresh, it does so again. And it very quickly says loading up here. So that's it. So we have feedback on what is currently happening. So let's go ahead and test this out by creating a separate client. So I'm going to hit Control B or Command B if you're on a Mac to quickly build a player here. And I'm going to just have this sit in a room with a name that we create here. So this is our client. I'm just going to resize this. And I'm going to have this sit on my secondary monitor in some kind of game. And this is just going to be our awesome game. So let's create a room here, and I'm going to just drag this over here. All it's going to do is sit here in our level. And then now when we hit play here, you could see here that it doesn't change the name or the amount of players, but it actually pops up, and it does so no matter how many times I refresh. So that's super cool. And you can also see that our loading object there is looking kind of funky. And maybe what we should do is actually go ahead and clear the room list before we refresh here. So if we just clear the room list right here, I think that will make a bit more sense. And I still have the other client working here. Generally, you shouldn't have clients on different versions connect to each other, but in this case, it's fine. So you can see there that it says loading and then it finds the new list. So that's much better. So cool, now that we have this set up, we of course again want a way for us to actually join the game and a way for it to update this text. So you can see right now when I click this, nothing happens. So to do this, let's go to a room list item and add a new component. And we'll call this one indeed room list item. There's no way to further complicate things here. So let's double click that to open it up in MonoDevelop. And we need a few things in here. We're not going to be using system.collections, however. So we can remove some of the functions here. And the first thing that I want is a way for us from our join game here to pass in the match that we are currently that this room list item is associated to, so that it can set up the name and the amount of players. So therefore we need a variable in here that is going to be a private, and this is going to be a match description. So therefore we need to be using unityengine.networking.match. So a match description, and this is just going to be our match. You can call this match info or whatever you want to. And then we're going to have a public void, and this is going to be a setup method. And what we want here is to take in as a parameter the match that we have found under our giant game. So this is going to be another match description, and this is going to be our underscore match. And then we can set match equal to underscore match, and we can then change the text on this object using match.name and match.user, or its current size and max size. That's what it is. So if we just save that and head back into Unity, we can now maybe actually we need a reference here. So we need to make a serialized field, and this is going to be a private text. And because we're using a text, we need to use unityengine.ui. And this is going to be a private text, and this is going to be our room list item text. We could also just call this the room name text. I think that's better. So a room name text. And what we can do down here is simply set room name text equal to match.name, and then plus, and I'm just going to have a sip of water here because this tutorial is crazy long. So match.name plus, and then we'll have a parentheses plus, and then match.current size plus, and then a slash or dash or whatever, slash I think, plus match.max size, and then plus an end parentheses. And I believe that is all we need to do. So it's written out like this. So this is going to display our match name, and then the current amount of players out of how many players there is room for. So that's fine. That all looks great. And we can now try this out, as long as, of course, we remember to call this from our join game method. So have a component sit on the game object. That is now done. And we can get a reference to this very easily. We simply do a room list item, and we call this underscore room list item. And that's why I wanted to prefix put geo at the end of this name. And we can now set this equal to get component room list item. There we go. And just for good practice sake, we should error check to see if this is actually there. So if room list item is not equal to null, excuse me, well, in that case we want to go room list item dot setup, and we want to pass in the match, and the match in this case is match from up here. So we just pass in the match there, and everything should be good. Then all we need to do on the room list item is find our text object and drag it in there. So let's hit play, and you should see it says room name, which is not the name of our room. So what is going on here? We are calling the setup, and we are setting the text equal to match name here. So that should actually be working, but for some reason this isn't updating. So let me just check. We have the room list item here. It probably means that the setup method is never called, but it should be called. So let's just try and see if this setup method is actually called. So let's try and debug.log this and say test. Let me just check here. It says if room list item is not equal to null. Oh, we're using get component here. We of course need to use room list item geo.get component. There we go. So we can remove this debug.log statement, and now we are calling it. So we want to search for this under the object and not the join game object that this is sitting on. So now we should see this working. So if we hit play here, we can see that it creates a button here, and it's called Awesome Game, and there's currently 1 out of 6 players. Man, I want to join this, but we can't. So how do we set up the ability for us to join this game? Well, basically what we can have is a function on the room list item that is called by our button here, by our onClick event. And we can just link those up. So let's go under our room list item, and let's have a public void here called join game. It's that simple, and what we want to do here is another thing, but what we can do is then go under our room list item prefab, excuse me again, and add a new onClick event and drag our room list item into that, go under function and room list item and select the one called join game. So that is now being called. However, we now want our join game to link to whatever game that we now want to join. So we want that to call a function over here under the join game script that is then aware of what match to join. And the way we do this is, again, we can do that because now we've done that, is by setting up a callback function. So how do we do this? Well, in our room list item, we want to now create a delegate. So if I go up here and create a public delegate, and this is going to be a void, and it very much looks like a function because that's pretty much what it is. It's pointed to a lot of different functions, so a public delegate void. And in here, I'm going to call this the join. And instead of calling this join game, I really think we should call this join room, just so we're consistent with our naming, and we should remember to set that up in a moment. So this is going to be a join room delegate, and this is going to take in as an argument a match description called match, and we can close that off. So this is what our function should look like. This is what the function that we want to call should look like. Then we can create an instance of this delegate. So our public delegate void can now be turned into a public join room delegate, which we are going to call, well, join room delegate. Like that. Great. Okay, so we are here this far, and actually I think we can go ahead and make this private, which would be great. And then here in our setup, we can pass in a function now that we want to associate to our join room delegate, and that function will then be called whenever this join room is called. So if that sounds confusing, I really understand why. Let me just type this out and I can explain further. So let's go ahead and do this. So let's call this a join room delegate, and this is going to be called underscore join room delegate, or maybe join room callback or something like that. We don't need to name it delegate. Actually, let's just call this the join room callback as well. And we can go down here and then set join room callback equal to underscore join room callback, like that. And then under our join room, we can say join room callback dot invoke, and we can pass in our match from up here. Okay, so what the heck is going on here? Well, basically what we're saying is that we want to be able to make a delegate that will contain a bunch of references to a set of functions that we want to call. However, we don't necessarily know what these functions are at the moment. We only know that at runtime at some point in the future. So what we do is we create this delegate, which is basically a callback. That means that functions are able to subscribe to this callback, so that when we invoke it, all of the functions subscribed to it will be called. In our case, we only want one function to subscribe to this. So we are creating a delegate void, and then we are creating an instance of that, and that is our join room callback. Then down here, we're adding the possibility for us to, when we're setting up, put in a function that we will set our join room callback equal to. That means that when down here we invoke our join room callback, whatever function we passed in up here is going to be called. So that's basically it. So it just allows us to input a function as an argument and call that function down here, no matter what that function is or what it does. Cool. So now we can go into our, and we're going to get an error here, but we should still be able to go into our room list item here. Nope, we're not. So what's going on here? Clear that, no overload method takes one. Okay, so it's in here. Room list item setup match, and now we can input both our match and the join room callback, whatever function we want to be called here. And in our case, that is a new function that we want to make called, and this should be public, I believe, public void join room. And this join room, of course, takes in a match description, and we'll call that match. Great. And down here we want some functionality for this, but I'm just going to say debug.log joining, and then we are going to do the underscore match dot name. Okay, cool. And now in here we can simply say join game. There we go. Join room, join room, join room. There we go. Okay. And that's all we need to do there. Then in here, what we can do is wait for this to refresh. And then we need to just change this room list item to join room instead of join game. It's disappeared now. So that's great. And hit play. And now this here, it looks like nothing has changed. But basically this button has now linked itself to a method on a join game that will make sure that it joins the game that we've clicked on. So that's super cool. So we can, when we click this now, we should actually be joining the game. And that did not work. There we go. So joining awesome game. There you can see. So the first time was because I hadn't selected the window. So first it selected it and then it took the button press. So, and you can see I can keep on doing this. So that now works, and that's super great. So joining awesome game. And what we can then do is, instead of just having it say this, we should actually go ahead and make it do this. And it's really, really simple. So this is actually the most simple step at all. So we're going to go under our network manager, and we're going to call something under our matchmaker called join match. And this, of course, takes in, again, a bunch of arguments. And let's just see them here. So first it takes in a net ID. We get this by calling match.networkID. Then it takes in a password. In our case, that is just nothing. And then it takes in a callback. In our case, that will just use the one under network manager. And this is the one called on match joined. There we go. And then let's close that off. Then we'll also clear our room list, and we will set our status.text equal to joining ... All right, so that's basically it. So let's clear this out. Let's hit play. And now we should be able to join the game. And you can see here that the other client is still running the game. And I can now go and hit click to join. So I did that again there. So let's hit click to join here. And that's annoying. So we'll have a look at fixing that in just a moment. So I actually was able to join here, and you can see that I'm now in the game. So that's perfect. That's working. And if we go ahead and hit play, you can see it still says 2 out of 6, but that's because I didn't disconnect properly. I simply just hit the stop playing button here. We'll have a look at this disconnecting in a proper way later. So don't worry about that for now. That will change at some point. But you can see we can hit refresh here, and that does work. So that's perfect. And then all I wanted to do is simply fix this problem of not hitting the button right. So if we find a room list item here, and we can just drag it under our under join game, scroll view, viewport content, there we go. So what is the issue here? We should be able to hit that. It's probably our status text is above this, and what I think was happening is that we hit the status text box here. Maybe. So what we can do is simply drag this above the viewport, and I actually think that might have solved it. It could also be that we're hitting this click to join, but I think that would still work, but I'm not 100% on that. So let's try and hit apply on this and just see if it's fixed already. If it was that easy, that would be awesome. So let's, yeah. And now it works. So that was basically all that we needed to do in order to fix that. And you can see that we now have a working server browser that will display the amount of games and all of that. I'm just going to show you here that if I hit play and then terminate my other client here, actually this might not work because again, I'm terminating this. So if I hit play here and then yeah, now it says 3 out of 6. So that just made it a lot weirder. So that's because we need to disconnect properly. We'll do that in a separate video. I want to create one for pausing the game and then properly disconnecting. So that was it for this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. I know it was quite crazy, all of this with delegates and UI things and networking, and it is confusing. It really is. Network games can be a pain to work with sometimes, but when it works, it's just so rewarding. And basically we're at a stage now where you can send this to all of your friends and actually have them create some rooms and jump in there and enjoy the game with them. So I think that's really exciting. So without further ado, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much to all of the awesome Patreon supporters who donated in July, and a special thanks to Vixian, Fimazone, Andrew K, and Lux Game TV. These videos wouldn't be possible without you.